Today, we're going to discuss whether you should store flour or store whole wheat for SHTF, because one may keep you alive while the other may not, right after the channel intro. Remember, only you can ensure you and your family's survival. Live your life with honor and integrity, and always be the wolf hunter, don't be the sheep, and never be the wolf. Welcome, I'm an avid prepper, an oath keeper, and I'm certified to teach the use of deadly force. If you want to learn actual prepping skills and how to protect yourself legally, then please subscribe and also click the bell icon so you won't miss whenever a video is released. We're in this together, so welcome to this community. So in today's video, I'm going to tell you whether I think it's best to store whole wheat or whether I think it's best to choose flour as part of your long-term storage foods for SHTF. And I'm also going to give you some information, just some things to think about so that you can make your own informed decision on which one would be best for you. And let's start right now. First, just to clarify, what most people call wheat kernels is actually called wheat berries. So when you hear me call them wheat berries, just know that I'm still referring to the same thing that you're probably picturing in your head when you mentally picture wheat kernels. But if you're like a lot of preppers, then you're probably wanting to be able to have a way to make bread or biscuits or crackers or whatever after SHTF happens. So therefore, you've probably decided to store a couple of 100 pounds of flour as part of your food preps. But then you've heard that other preppers are storing whole wheat berries instead of flour. And now you don't know which you should do, because ultimately what you're wanting is you're wanting the one that's going to serve you and your family the best during SHTF. So if that's you, let's first take a quick look at just a couple of things to really help you make a solid and good decision on which is best for preppers to stockpile, flour versus whole wheat. First, you should consider this. Do you use a lot of flour? Enough that you could rotate through a couple of 100 pounds every couple of years and be able to afford to restock that couple of 100 pounds as you go through it? And do you keep all of that flour in your house with absolutely no plans of ever having to bug out to a backup prepper bug out location or retreat? Then if that's you, if you use a lot of flour, enough to be able to rotate a couple of 100 pounds every couple of years, and you're absolutely certain that you'd never want to pre-position any of your food preps at a different location, then buying and storing flour just may be a better option for you. But for me, being how I live in a suburb just outside of a city, I know that there's a very high likelihood that I may have to bug out if an extended SHTF event happens, such as if we go into another Great Depression or have a widespread pandemic or something like that. Personally, while I think it's wise to stay at your house for as long as possible before bugging out, I don't think it's wise to be so adamant that you'll absolutely never bug out and that it will be perfectly fine to have all of your food and all of your supplies all in one place, with that one place being your home. So here's my thoughts. If me and my family actually start having to eat our long-term food storage preps, then it's probably going to be a pretty ugly SHTF situation. And if it's that bad, then there's probably going to be a whole lot of hungry people that live around us. And probably also a high likelihood of bad guys and criminals coming out of the city and hitting the suburbs in search of resources. So if it gets bad enough that we have criminals looting the cities and suburbs in search of resources, then obviously I'll be moving my family to a secondary and more safe location. And therefore I want my food preps to be mostly food that I can pre-position at a location that I feel will be more safe than the city or just outside of the city. And I want that type of food that's pre-positioned at a bug out location, to be the kind of food that I can put there and forget about it. Food that will store for close to 30 years. Food that I don't have to worry about rotating out on a regular basis. And that's why I have chosen to primarily buy and store whole wheat berries instead of flour for my food stocks that can be stored for decades. And I'll explain why I think it's better for serious preppers to primarily choose whole wheat berries instead of flour. First, it's my understanding that whole wheat stores much longer than flour, because once wheat is ground into flour, it drastically reduces the storage time and the vitamins that nourish your body will start breaking down. So storing whole wheat instead of flour will mean that it will stay nutritious and edible for you. Now I have to say this, in order for whole wheat to last 30 years for you, it needs to be vacuum packed and stored in a cool, dry place. So if you just buy big bags of whole wheat and throw them in your closet, it won't be too long before your wheat will draw bugs and also start going bad on you. Now in these video snippets, I was putting a couple of 100 pounds of whole wheat into Mylar bags with O2 absorbers. But since then, I have begun buying whole wheat in the number 10 cans from the LDS online store, where you can buy about 30 pounds of wheat for a little bit over 30 bucks. I really like buying the wheat like this because it's already pre-packaged in the number 10 cans and ready to store for 30 years. And you don't have to worry about a Mylar bag losing its seal and its vacuum like if you bag them yourself. And to see a video on all of the food that's perfect for preppers, but to see a video on all of the food that you can buy for pretty cheap from the LDS, a link to that video should be appearing in the upper right hand corner about now. But I also like the versatility of whole wheat compared to flour. You can make it into a hot cereal. And obviously you can grind it or mill it down into flour to make bread or biscuits or whatever. And if worse comes to worse, you can always sprout it and have extremely nutritious, life-saving food within just a couple of days. And to see a video on how easy it is to sprout wheat, a video should be appearing in the upper right-hand corner of the screen about now. And then you can still also plant some of the whole wheat to give you a renewable food source year after year after SHTF. Now, if you do buy whole wheat, the downside is that you will need a wheat grinder, which is actually called a grain mill. Now, I have to admit, I haven't had much experience with many different grain mills, so I unfortunately cannot recommend a dirt cheap one that I know will work good and also last you for a long time should you have to start relying on it. When I first went to buy a grain mill, I read all the different reviews on the cheaper models that ran about 40 or 50 bucks. And I just saw too many reviews that said the milling heads would break on them pretty quickly. So after doing quite a bit of research, I finally decided that the best value for a grain mill that should be solid enough that I'll be able to pass it down to my children is the Wonder Mill Junior Deluxe that you can get for about 200 bucks. For everything that you get for the close to $200 price range with the Wonder Mill Junior Deluxe, the other top of the line grain mill will run you around $800. And to see a video where I show the Wonder Mill Junior Deluxe grain mill and how it works, a link to that video should be showing in the upper right hand corner of the screen about now. Anyways folks, if you want to be able to store it for decades and have a little bit of versatility with it, then buy whole wheat and then either vacuum seal it yourself or buy it from the LDS already vacuum packed in the number 10 cans. And then if you have no need for your food preps to be shelf stable for 30 years, then go ahead and buy the flour for your convenience. And just a side note, you can purchase a case of the flour in the vacuum packed number 10 cans from the LDS. And they give their flour a 10-year shelf life. And while that's not as good as the 30-year shelf life of whole wheat, 10 years still isn't bad. Now, while it may be a good idea for some of you to store both flour and whole wheat, I personally do not. The main reason is that whole wheat flour does not store as long as white bleached flour. And I believe that whole wheat flour is healthier for you than the white flour. So just for health reasons, I prefer to go ahead and hand crank all of my own flour. And I actually enjoy hand cranking my wheat into flour anyways. But if I were to actually store a combination of both vacuum packed flour and whole wheat, I would probably do about 30% flour and 70% whole wheat. That would give me about 2 years worth of flour that I could keep it rotated before it went bad and still be able to afford to replace what I've used every couple of years. Anyways folks, some of you will have already known this information, But there's a lot of newer preppers out there who are still learning about prepping. And these are just my thoughts on the subject of flour versus whole wheat for preppers. And I very well could have missed a few important points. So you experienced preppers, please comment below with your thoughts and share your knowledge. And newer preppers, please read those comments. And together, we can make this channel and this video a great resource for everybody. And lastly, these are my thoughts on the subject. You may be adamant that storing flour is better for your particular situation. And if that's the case, that's totally fine. Some of you may be able to constantly rotate out a couple of years worth of flour at a bug out location with no problem. But just remember that this video is just giving food for thought and why storing wheat is better for me and why it may be a better option for many other preppers. While I enjoy making these videos for pennies on the hour, I am wishing to purchase better video and editing equipment that will allow me to make better quality videos for you all without actually putting me into debt to make the videos. So if you have the disposable income, please consider joining my Patreon video channel, where for just $1 a month you'll get early access to videos and also receive special prepper and naturally made gifts from time to time and other exclusive Patreon member rewards when they become available. To help support our community, please subscribe and hit the like button. Please comment below. Please share this video on social media. And please make sure you have the bell icon hit for notifications of when videos are released. Anyways, folks, if you made it this far, thank you very much for watching. And I pray that you have a good night.